Welcome to Leave It on the Court. My name is Corey Randall.
My name is Mustafa.
Just before we get into the topic, I want to send my condolences to Carl Anthony Towns and his family, the whole Towns family, for the loss of his mother. She, was diagnosed with COVID-19, unfortunately, and he had put out a video before that she was in the emergency room and everything because she was in a coma, and he could tell that things weren't right with her at that moment in time, but unfortunately she passed. My condolences go out to him and the family. I'm sure you got a point or something to say.
Yeah, same here. My condolences to the Towns family. Sorry for the loss. I know it's a pretty tough time for the family, for him as well. I could only imagine if today the season started and he had to play, with that on his mind, or he had to prepare to play with that on his mind. It's just a pretty tough thing. Hopefully he could battle through it. You could battle through it, and in some way, there's a positive that you can grab from this.
Right. And also, just to emphasize again, people haven't been listening or anything, but stay at home, and unless you really have to get out the house, and just try to keep everybody from this disease from spreading, just so we don't have any more deaths or anything of that nature.
Yeah, take it seriously.
But for the topic segment for today is based off of Jalen and Jacoby's podcast. Their show, that one of their topics was Michael Jordan actually scared of Hakeem Olajuwon on the Rockets, and this was reported they got this information from Rudy Tomjanovich, who used to coach the Rockets during that time, and apparently he said that's what Michael Jordan had told him. So do you actually think, Mustafa, MJ was scared of the Rockets?
I don't know, man. I think that it's something that he probably just said during the moment. Obviously, there would be some concerns because Olajuwon was a little bit more advanced for his position during that time. That's why he was able to play so well, and he had such an advantage inside because he was just a juggernaut. He could play defense, he could block shots, he could get rebounds, position himself well. He had a really good footwork. There was a lot that he can do. And, for all the years that Rodman has been a rock down low, as we all know, Hakeem Olajuwon throughout the years gave him a lot of trouble. Even sometimes he got into foul trouble, against Olajuwon because of, like the things I mentioned, his position and his footwork. And, he had like the cat-like instincts. So he was pretty swift with what he had to do. So, I mean, it would have been tough for them, but I don't know, like scared. I think he would have probably shouldered that. And for me, it's like, what was they really gonna be scared of? Outside of maybe you could say Clyde Drexler, he was head and shoulders as far as talent goes above a lot of his teammates. They were very solid contributors, as we all know. The Kenny the Jet Smith, the Sam Cassells of the world, the Robert Horrys, and the list goes on. But he was, head and shoulders. Obviously, he had a big impact on his team, but I don't know if scared is the word for it. I don't know. I think that's a little drawn out.
Yeah, I think anybody knows from watching MJ and just his whole career, MJ is not scared of anybody. Even Gary Payton will tell you that. Gary Payton's one of the biggest trash talkers and toughest, tenacious defenders we've ever had, especially being at his size. And Jordan will come at you, talk trash to you if you instigate things with him. And I think what Jordan did say, or what was reported at least before, was that he felt like the Rockets would have been a really tough matchup because he wasn't sure if the Bulls had an answer for guarding Hakeem Olajuwon. But the same thing, applies to the Rockets were guarding the Bulls. Who's gonna guard MJ? Robert Horry was saying that he reported that Vernon Maxwell could guard MJ. And it's like, bro, nobody could guard MJ. I even looked at the head-to-head matchup of Vernon Maxwell versus MJ. MJ was averaging 30 on him. He could not guard him. So that's something that the Rockets would have to deal with. The Bulls also had Pippen. Pippen was known for, taking the head off of a snake, as he put it, against other teams. Plus, he was a facilitator, and he was somebody who could give you 20 apiece as well. So, as far as any matchups and kind of going off of the video, off of what Jalen has stated, Jalen said that Hakeem Olajuwon was capable of going on the perimeter and guarding a player like Tony Kukoc. He would snatch rebounds, from Rodman. And it's like, when you look at when the Rockets swept the Magic, in that series, Hakeem Olajuwon was out-rebounded by Shaq. And if you look at when Shaq had matchups against Dennis Rodman, bro, in regular season matchups overall, Rodman was out-rebounding Shaq by 4, was averaging 17 rebounds at 6'8", 6'7". And then in the playoffs, he out-rebounded Shaq by like 5. So if he could out-rebound Shaq by a decent amount for his size, I think he could have out-rebounded Hakeem Olajuwon as well. Plus, he was a pesky defender. He'd get in your head. He was annoying. All those factors, come into play. And, if you want to be that adamant and that confident about Rockets coming out during that 8-year period of the Bulls having 2 three-peats and the Rockets winning 2 championships, it's like, why? The Rockets were losing to a lot of teams that the Bulls were beating. They're losing to the Sonics, they're losing to Utah. The Bulls were handling these teams. So if you were so adamant about that, why weren't you going to the championship more so during that time period?
Yeah, so those are good points. I like the thing you brought up about defense as well, and with Dennis Rodman. The only thing is with Dennis Rodman and Olajuwon, because even before, when Dennis Rodman was on the Spurs, it was a lot of hell that he had to go through dealing with Hakeem Olajuwon, because during that time period, guys were a lot more physical on defense. A guy's physical makeup and all that, those kind of things, had a lot to do with the matchup and all that kind of stuff. And even when they would try to be physical with Hakeem Olajuwon, he wasn't frail, and he just had good positioning, and he just knew what to do with his body. His footwork was well. He was very skilled. Mm-hmm. So that skill, like, it put him a little bit on top of the herd, as far, so to speak, as far as playing with other guys. So I think that was really the main thing that I guess maybe Michael Jordan was talking about. I don't know. We can go back and forth as far as what year he's talking about. Right. And just like you said, Vernon Maxwell, he wouldn't be able to physically match up with Michael Jordan. That's starters. And like the Bulls team, as far as defense, they were a lot better than a lot of the teams in the league, and I think they were better than that team that faced the team San Antonio had versus Houston Rockets.
Houston, right?
And the same scheme that they use, if the Bulls used it, I think it would have worked more to their advantage because of the stronger defenders they had on their team. And having Michael Jordan, who was a stout defender during that time, on the top of the key to guard, whether it was Vernon Maxwell or Kenny the Jet Smith or whomever it is in the perimeter. I feel like they would have matched up well. I guess maybe over time, when you get older, you start to look at things more with rose-colored glasses. You have less of an edge, like Mark Jackson spoke about in a previous interview with In All the Smoke. So I guess maybe that's what led him to say that. But I wonder if we would ask him the same question, during his prime, during that 1990s era, would he say the same thing? I don't.
Yeah. And yeah, you made good points there. And another thing I forgot to note too was with Jalen Rose stating that that Olajuwon could go out in the perimeter and guard Kukoc. If I'm Chicago and I'm playing against the Rockets and you wanna put the all-time shot blocking leader out on the perimeter to guard Kukoc, that's
That's the
fine with
best
me.
thing. That's the best thing, man. That's paradise for an offense because you taking the intimidator, outside of his comfort zone, outside of the area that nobody wants him.
Exactly.
So I would take that any day of the week.
and
It,
and no, go
that just
ahead.
go to show what kind of weapons Chicago had because it's like you go out there and go do that. Michael Jordan's gonna eat, Pimpin's gonna eat, everybody else is gonna have their
That's what I'm
fair share.
saying.
So and they were not well known to be a real defensive juggernaut, but they play well together. They players complemented each other pretty well. So
Yeah, and for Rockets being that confident because they won those two championships that MJ was gone, a couple of things that people don't know is that when they beat the Knicks in '94, that Knicks team played the Bulls, and it was in the conference finals, I believe, and with no MJ, and it was the Rodman wasn't even there yet. You just had Pippen and some other people, but the the Knicks went to 7 games against that Bulls team and beat the Bulls obviously in 7 games, and then went on to play the Rockets in 7 games and lose. And it's like if you were that dominant, the Rockets, you wouldn't have let that Knicks team get into 7 games with you, and dominated them, especially that team with them not having that great of an offensive scheme. But then the next year, Olajuwon saying, "Oh well, MJ did come back in '95 and they lost to the Magic. We swept the Magic, bro. MJ played 17 games, 17. He wasn't. He was playing baseball. Like he's not gonna just come back and just be the same. You got to really get familiar. You got to implement him back in the offense. It changes everything. So to me, it's not like there's no argument here for me with this because I just think MJ would have come out on top. So
and that just go back to our point when we had that episode about this defense really win championships. We talk about is luck involved.
hmm
You know, and it goes to show that it really is. Like, there's always some, like, most teams that won, unless you're maybe the Golden State Warriors, and the passing that they had with Kevin Durant, where they were basically running through everybody. But it's luck involved, man. Like, a lot of times, it's just it's either an injury or a guy's not there, or you're just taking advantage of a situation.
hmm
So I mean, if that happened to be the case, just go with it and run with it. People are gonna say what they gotta say, but it's luck involved, man. A lot of times.
yes, a lot of luck. And, another thing too is it is matchups. Matchups plays a big role. You may dominate one team who can dominate another, and it's just like a whole triangle of different results off of different matchups. But when a good team, successful franchise, especially one that can dominate on both ends of the floor, like Chicago Bulls did, regardless of who you match up against, you're going to match up accordingly and you're going to figure something out. Whether you play against Utah, you're going to have to guard a dynamic point guard in John Stockton. You're going to have to guard Karl Malone. Fine. But then when you play against another team who has a star player who's in a different position, then you're going to change your defensive scheme to guard that person. You figure things out. So I think, things would have been figured out. But I like how MJ's like he's like a humble superstar. He doesn't come out here trying to make claims or anything. He's gonna be real objective and just tell things how it is, and just leave it up in the air. Like you never know what would have the result would have been. So
Yeah, I mean, at this point, what does he sound like trying to be super competitive? It's not like they about to just lace it up and go to maybe Hakeem Olajuwon's ranch and go play 5-on-5, with their previous team. It's not happening. So, I mean, at this point, you kind of just look at things with rose-colored glasses. he's at a different stage of his career now. You know, enjoying his life, smoking his cigars. Like,
Right.
he ain't really worried about that kind of stuff. What would have happened, or this would have happened, or nah.
All right. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to this segment. We'd love to hear comments of what you guys think. Definitely like and subscribe. Definitely give us some feedback. Um, you know, that's all I got for me. You got anything?
Yeah, man. I just want to thank all the people who have been supporting us, who've been tuning in, people who liked, subscribe. I just hope you guys continue on the journey with us. We're just starting out. I appreciate the support and love. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that one.
Yeah, and stay safe. Stay safe.
Yes, sir.
All right, peace.
Peace.